Imagine finally being able to return to the land your family lost once, but fought decades to reclaim. 6 acres of rocky hillside overlooking the Suncrest Canyon Valley. A small adobe home your great-grandmother built by mixing clay with her bare hands. A place where every sunrise reminds you you're standing on history that refused to die. That's what it meant to Mason Calder, a Latino wildlife ranger who had spent 22 years patrolling national forests while saving every cent to restore his family's ancestral land. For 3 quiet months after retiring early, Mason woke up to the same ritual. Bare feet in the cool dirt, coffee steaming in his hands, coyotes echoing somewhere beyond the canyon. Peace, finally. And then, Linda Crestwood arrived. White linen suit, sun hat big enough to cast shade on 4 people, and a glossy badge that read, Suncrest Bluffs Hillside Coalition, President. Printed at home, crooked, laminated unevenly. She marched right past Mason without acknowledging him and planted a bright red violation notice in his garden bed. Unauthorized dwelling on scenic preservation territory, it read. Fine, $750. Correction required, 48 hours. Mason blinked. This house was built in 1938. My family's deed predates your coalition by... Linda cut him off mid-sentence with a sugary smile. Everything on this hill answers to me, Mason. And that was the beginning. By midweek, 3 more notices appeared. Unauthorized rainwater collection, aggressive wildlife attracting features, she meant his bird feeders, and non-approved building materials on a porch built before she was even born. The neighbors grew silent. Some avoided looking Mason in the eye. Others quietly muttered apologies when Linda wasn't around. She told them that if they didn't participate in community reporting, their homes would be next on her list. In local Facebook groups, Linda uploaded dramatically filtered photos of Mason's house, calling it unsafe, unsanitary, and even environmentally dangerous. He hadn't even met half the neighbors, yet they were suddenly terrified of him. Then the letters came. Thick envelopes from a firm in Phoenix with too many names on the letterhead. Cease and desist orders, threats of an emergency lien, demands for $5,200 in cumulative violations. That evening, sitting beside the cracked adobe steps where his grandmother once shelled corn, Mason remembered her words. If someone threatens what is yours, don't raise your voice. Raise your facts. So he grabbed his truck keys and drove to the County Canyon Land Office. The building smelled like dried ink, old maps, and stubborn history. At the front desk sat Deputy Registrar Tina Morales, a woman who used to trade tamales with Mason's grandmother across the fence line 40 years ago. She recognized him instantly. "What did they do to you?" she asked softly. Mason explained everything. Tina typed, searched, scrolled, slow and methodical, like someone who had watched too many families get bulldozed by fake committees hiding behind paperwork. When she slid the file across the counter, something inside Mason shifted. His family's land patent wasn't 6 acres, it was 8. And the missing 2 acres? They sat directly behind his adobe home. Land Linda claimed belonged to the coalition. The hillside path she accused him of intruding on, that was his great-grandmother's foot trail. And the Suncrest Bluffs Hillside Coalition? Founded in 2011, 73 years after the Calder land patent was issued. Driving home, Mason gripped the wheel tighter than he meant to. Linda wasn't confused. She wasn't mistaken. She was strategizing. Someone wanted that hillside. Someone wanted him gone. Back at home, Mason began assembling a record. Every notice, every threatening letter, every false accusation. He took photos, logged timestamps, saved screenshots of Linda calling his home a biohazard. Then he dug deeper. Financial filings, coalition budgets, tax records, publicly available if you knew where to look. The pattern was clear. Oh, trail maintenance fees? Paid to a construction company owned by Linda's cousin. Wildlife mitigation services? Billed on days Mason counted nothing but sparrows. Erosion grant appropriations? That vanished into a shell nonprofit called Hillside Horizons Development. And a suspicious line item labeled Land Reacquisition Strategy Fund. When Mason traced the shell company's address, his jaw tightened. A P.O. box, registered 3 houses down from Linda's mansion on the ridge. By midnight, his dining table looked like a crime scene wall. Not random violations, not harmless bullying. A coordinated land grab targeting older families with pre-coalition deeds. And his land, those 8 acres, blocked the coalition's expansion plan completely. The next morning, Mason picked up the phone. He dialed the number his grandmother once told him to keep safe. The county sheriff Elias Harper, a man known for his hatred of fake authority and his love of old property law. "Come over," Mason said quietly. "I need to show you something." Sheriff Elias Harper arrived just after noon, his old county truck coughing dust up Mason's driveway like it had been doing since the 80s. He stepped out, boots crunching gravel, hat tilted low, a man built from canyon grit and zero tolerance for nonsense. He didn't knock. He walked straight inside like he had when Mason was a kid visiting the station with homemade tortillas. When Harper saw the table, he stopped cold. Printouts, photos, notices, screenshots, financial trails, maps, a full wall of connection lines and signatures. "This isn't a boundary dispute," Harper muttered. "This is a damn scheme." Mason didn't say a word. He didn't need to. Harper sifted through the files slowly, jaw tightening with every page. He flipped through the fake invoices, the grant money that evaporated, the shell companies tied back to Linda's ridgetop address, payments routed through family names, the trail maintenance fees that never maintained a single trail. Finally, Harper exhaled, sharp, like the canyon had punched him in the lungs. "So that's why she's after you. Your land patent blocks her expansion project." Before Mason could reply, they heard it. Tires skidding, car doors slamming, high heels striking dirt like they owned the hillside. Linda. And she didn't come alone. Mason recognized the rhythm of her arrogance before her voice even reached the door. Harper didn't move. He simply turned toward the doorway. The front door swung open so violently the adobe frame cracked. Linda Crestwood burst inside, holding her phone up like it was a federal badge. "You are trespassing on regulated scenic property. You are illegally modifying protected hillside land. This structure is under emergency review for demolition." 2 men followed her, broad-chested, wearing black tactical vests with bold white letters, Hillside Enforcement Unit. Not a real thing. Not even close. Have you ever seen a self-appointed committee president kick open someone's door with 2 fake officers behind her? Linda didn't look around the room. She didn't check who was present. She assumed Mason was alone and helpless. "What you're doing is illegal, sweetheart," she said into her phone. "Refusing compliance with official coalition orders." "Linda." Sheriff Harper's voice cut through her monologue like a canyon wind slicing through heat. Linda froze. The 2 fake enforcement unit men froze a beat later. Mason stayed perfectly still. Harper took 1 slow step forward, his hand resting near his badge. "What in God's name do you think you're doing, breaking into a man's home?" Linda's mouth dropped open. Her voice sputtered. I thought he was alone. I thought this property, he's been endangering the hillside." He didn't let her finish. "No, you're impersonating authority, you're extorting residents, and you just forced entry into a legally occupied home." He turned her around with trained precision, snapped cuffs on her wrists, and began reading her rights, loud enough for her 2 fake officers to hear every word. The men panicked instantly. "We thought this was her house. She said it was an official inspection. We didn't know."
They bolted out the door so fast one vest slipped off mid-run. Linda sagged in the cuffs, heels crooked on broken adobe. Her phony slipped from her fingers and landed screen up, still recording her humiliation. Harper glanced at the screen, tapped stop recording and pocketed it. You just filmed yourself committing a felony. That's evidence now. Within 10 minutes, 2 county patrol units pulled up the driveway. Deputy Alvarez, who used to get second helpings of Mason's grandmother's pozole, stepped out and helped escort Linda down the steps. She tried to yell. She tried to spin blame. She even tried to cry. "I was protecting the community," she wailed as neighbors gathered outside. But no one believed her anymore. People who once acted scared of Mason now stood in stunned silence. Some looked ashamed. Others whispered, "She did this to all of us. How many families did she push out? That land grab, she planned it." The enforcement unit men sat on the ground, hands behind their heads, whining that they were just volunteers. Harper looked over the entire scene, the broken doorway, the fake tactical gear, the evidence spread across Mason's table. "This is bigger than her," Harper said quietly. "This looks like organized fraud." Mason nodded. He knew. A week later, the dominoes fell. Fraud, impersonation of authority, grant theft, environmental fraud, property intimidation, forced displacement. The county froze the coalition's accounts before anyone could run. The shell companies collapsed one by one. Funds were traced back to Linda's family trust, and the Suncrest Bluff Coalition dissolved before it could even hire a defense attorney. Mason's land? All 8 acres officially affirmed, recorded, and protected by the county in a public bulletin. That evening, as the canyon cooled and coyotes sang in the distance, Mason sat barefoot on the adobe steps, coffee in hand, watching dusk paint the valley in gold. Peace didn't return because Linda left. It returned because he refused to surrender what generations fought to keep.